Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and this is the ultimate Unity tutorial for beginners and welcome to episode 17. So in this tutorial we're going to take a look at changing the sound of our footsteps from what sounds like walking on solid floor, even though we're on grass, to a more natural sound. And we're also going to look at basically making our NPC here only talk to us realistically when we have hold of our axe, so dialogue states. Don't forget, click the subscribe button, click the bell icon as well, stay up to date with every tutorial in this series, and with that in mind, let's get to work. So, first thing I'm going to do is go into my audio folder, into effects, and I'm going to import two audio clips. Grass Step 1 and Grass Step 2. Bring them in. You can get these on the website, head over there, downloads and assets, and yeah, you guys know where to go. So, how do we get these to basically replace what we have as that hardwood sound? Well, as you already know, we walk around and it's quite clearly grass, but it sounds like we're walking on wood or something else. So what we need to do is actually get to the point in our first person controller to change it. So if we go on FPS controller, over here you'll see element 0 within footstep sounds and element 1, footstep 01, footstep 02. Now, we are going to modify this a little later on in the series because we're going to have different places where we walk. Obviously, it's going to have different sound effects, whether it be in water, whether it be on hardwood floor like here, grass, snow, whatever. For now, because the majority of this is just grass, we're going to replace it with grass. And it is as simple at this point as just dragging and dropping these audio clips into these elements over here. These are the default sounds which come with the FPS controller, so just keep that in mind. You can always reuse them if you want to, because if you click them right here, it will take you to where that footstep is. And there are a couple of other footsteps you can use, but again, they are just hardwood floor. So let's drag and drop the grass step over here, and the grass step once again. Excuse me. And I've done the same one twice there, haven't I? My apologies. Let's go back to the FPS controller and grass step 2. And now let's press play and see what it sounds like. Okay, so that seems a little bit more as you would expect from this particular area. Now obviously it's going to sound the same here even though we're not on it, but for now I guess it's something that we can deal with later on, as I said, because there are different floors that we can walk on. Excuse me. So I've got bad throat today, guys. Okay, so next on our agenda is dialogue states. So if we recall, our NPC here speaks to us no matter what, and he says something, come and speak to me later, or whatever it was that we had him say last time. So I'm going to go to that script, NPC chat, and I'm going to load that up. So the way this is going to work is we're going to have a script which allows us to interact with other scripts to basically say that yes, this particular element is now active. In other words, this dialogue state can be activated from another NPC. So what that means is that we are going to have to create a new script which will contain these dialogue states. And obviously when we pick the axe up, that is the sequence that's going to occur. We change it in that dialogue state script to come to here. So what that means is that we'll be changing this section a little later on. For now though, what we need to do is set that script with the dialogue states. So I'm going to go to my main script folder, right click, create, C#, and let's call it dialogue state. And let's open that up in Visual Studio as well. So we need to set a couple of variables. So I'm going to get rid of void start and any annotations. I'm going to keep void update just for now. We're going to start with public, and we're going to have static. And obviously the reason we're having static here is because we need this variable to be accessible from separate scripts. If you need to know more, even more about static variables, then I have plenty of tutorials that you can learn on. But we need the word static, as I say, because we're referencing this variable in a different script. It's going to be, this one can be a bool, and we're going to have it as state ax take semicolon. Actually, do you know what? By default, we'll have that as false. So naturally, what this means is that anything we do, if we change it to true, then obviously that will have a different impact within the NPC chat. So let's save that script. And let's head to that NPC chat. So this, if the distance is less than 3, we also now need to have another nested if function to say if the dialog state is false, then we do this. If not, we do something else. So that means if, and in brackets, we need to have dialog state dot state take ax, or rather ax take equals, that's double equals, false, close bracket, open curly bracket, and then all we need to do is just delete that second curly bracket and place it beneath start coroutine. There, and it will indent it as you would expect. Now we could use an else function here, or rather an else line, to actually say the opposite of this. However, I feel that if we actually redo the if statement, it will add a little bit extra for us. Yeah, it's going to be a couple of extra lines of code, but don't worry too much about it at all, because it's not something that's going to break the bank with the amount of code that we're doing. I'm doing it this way because I want you to be able to see the flow and routine of what script, or rather how the script is working. You can use an else at this point if you want to, but you can do it the way I'm going to do in just a second. So what we want to happen is essentially when we actually pick up the axe, we want our NPC to say something different because it's a different dialogue state. But what this will do, leading into the next couple of tutorials, is start something maybe like a quest where we go and kill an enemy or something like that. So what I'm going to do is if, and in brackets, dialog state dot state take axe double equals true this time, open curly bracket, then we're going to take these lines of code right here and place them in there. And now we're going to change what he says. So instead of saying, please come back to me when you have a weapon, we'll say, I see you have your axe. I have a small favor to ask of you. And for those shouting and screaming right now, yes, I'm British. That is how I spell favour. Yes, I know in North America, many other countries, it's spelt without the U. Up to you how you want to spell it. So what will happen here is when we pick up the axe, he will say this line. So I'm going to leave this as it is for now. I'm going to save that script. And what this will eventually lead on to, like I say, is the next tutorial where we'll do bigger and better things. So next thing we have to do is go to our axe, which I believe is fake axe or something like that. Here we are, axe. And surrounding this axe is the trigger to actually pick it up. And I think it's take axe object, that one. So contained in there is axe take. So we need to go into that axe take script now. And when we've picked that up, what we need to do is inside that dialog state, we then need to set that as true so our NPC says something different. So before we destroy the game object right there, we need to put dialog state dot state axe take equals true, semicolon, and save. So if we head back into Unity now, we now need to attach that dialog state script to our scene. Game object, create empty, and just drag and drop dialog state onto that game object, and right click, rename. We'll have dialog object. Now you'll notice we don't have that variable that we created right here, but rest assured it does exist. Because we've used the word static, hence the reason why we need to access it from separate scripts, it doesn't appear here in the inspector panel. I usually like to have kind of like an internal version of it, but I don't think it's really necessary at this point. What I mean by having an internal version is having inside the script another variable that is, say, internal axe take, but not static. And then in void update, we make the two equal to each other. So it would show here in the inspector panel. But I don't think that's necessary at the moment. So let's press play and check out if this works as intended. So we should be able to go over here, speak to our NPC, and he will say, come back when you have a weapon. There he is. Please come back to me when you have a weapon. Sure. So let's go and fetch that axe, and we should be able to see that dialogue state take effect. Our axe is over here. Take axe. There we go. So he should now actually say about the axe. I see you have your axe. I have a small favour to ask of you. There we go. So that is how we can use dialogue states to actually manipulate how the game reacts to different things. And we're going to deal more with dialogue states as we get further and further into development, because I think from the next tutorial it's going to get not complicated with scripting, but it's going to get more advanced with scripting, because we're going to start bringing in enemies, we're going to start having quest lines, we're going to start doing all kinds of things. So next tutorial, I do want to add a little bit more to this terrain, so we'll probably kind of work just a minute or so on some grassy area or whatnot. We'll also deal with a text box, so we'll add a nice text box in there rather than just have the text on the bottom of the screen. Again, it's up to you if you want to. I will also bring in another, or rather an enemy just to begin with. I'm not sure why I said another there. So yeah, that's all coming up in the next tutorial. So guys, until then, thank you very much for watching.